Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News on the South Florida Conservative News Center. It's Thursday, June 12th, and we're going to have to step back from the shenanigans occurring on the West Coast and talk about the shenanigans that are occurring in our own state of Florida. An ongoing battle has occurred between the forces of evil, which is the big sugar organizations operating near Lake Okeechobee, and a number of Everglades conservationists. So I would say not maybe not spearheaded, but most visibly by Captains for Clearwater. They had just had a recent event where it turns out they had a letter written by a sheriff of one of the counties up there saying that their speech was almost causing violence to the sugar people. Sound familiar? And then the next day, the sheriff says, "Well, the sugar people reached out to me and said maybe I should write a letter like this." And so, who the hell write? Who first of all, who writes a letter like that? Obviously, liberal Democrats. Secondly, who admits to writing a letter under duress from a large sugar consortium? And it is a large sugar consortium. You may not think sugar is a big thing. In the state of Florida, it really is. They have a situation where they have bribed both sides of the aisle. Not that there is one down here, but if there was, both sides of the aisle have taken money from the sugar mafia, for lack of a better term. So it was originally over the EAA water conservation area. Now it's over a thing called the rock mine, which I'm going to include the link in all these things. You can watch a podcast that explains it pretty well. It's very, a lot of technical stuff because these boys have been stuck in court a long time. But the long and the short of it is yet another thing to endanger the water supply of the state of Florida. If developers weren't endangering the water supply to the state of Florida, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. They would probably endanger some other supply that we didn't know we had in danger of. But that's kind of par for the course when you just want to build 20,000 shoddily produced houses to foist upon people who shouldn't own houses in the first place. But I digress. So let's hop into this one because over the time that this has occurred, we've mentioned it a little bit, but it never made sense. And this is where, when you're talking about a conservative viewpoint versus, whatever, the liberals and everything else, you have to follow it straight through all the time. If it makes good business sense, it makes good business sense. Good business, regardless of what they teach you in college today, is not supposed to kill everybody around it. If I develop a business, it's not supposed to kill everybody because then I'll have no more customers, right? It was Thank You for Smoking, where he says, would the tobacco industry want to kill everybody? We want to keep them alive to keep them smoking. But it was real, not, being said in a farce. So that's where we are with this. But anyway, here's a little something that we were talking about. And we're talking about, like I said, this story, which is about far more than one proposed rock mine. It's about the soul of Florida, or what's left of the soul of Florida, the future of our water. If you're look on the thumbnail or whatever, depending on where you're seeing this, there's an arrow that shows you the flow of water through the Everglades all the way down to past Miami. The Everglades and the water associated with it is the lifeblood of the state of Florida. It would be akin to, I guess, cutting out the Mississippi River in other states. But Florida is a unique ecosystem. It is a unique ecosystem. They call it the Sea of Grass if you talk to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. And without it, we don't exist. And without it, Miami can't continue to do what it does, whatever that is, right? Or all these other things that you see. People came here to get rich or rich quick, while as others came here to be involved in the agricultural side of the state. And we always have had back and forth between the two. So where we as a people still have the will and the wisdom to act as stewards of this land that we love. If you enjoy, I'm not born here, been here 26 years, whatever, long enough time, I'm institutionalized. Okay. In recent weeks, you've heard about the battle raging between, near Okeechobee. I'm going to go back over it again for other people who don't know. The fights between corporate mining interest, which is the sugar people, and grassroots groups like Captains for Clear Water, who are trying to protect the Everglades and Florida's drinking water. The real question here, though, is not just that. It's, will Florida be a state that extracts and exploits, or one that preserves and prospers? And that is a major issue, and one that we have talked with people in the government about. What are we going to do? Are we just going to be an extraction colony like Central and South America? Or are we trying to form a real environment that people can live in, instead of just the get rich quick, cocaine fueled, blah, 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 that we've been known for the longest time? Okay. So what we have here in Florida, the Everglades is one of the most unique ecosystems on Earth. It's not a swamp. There's swampy-ish areas, but it's a slow, life-giving river of grass that connects the heart of Florida to the Gulf and to the Atlantic. You'll see it on that map. It's the lungs of South Florida. It's water filtration system and cradle of biodiversity. Millions of Floridians rely on the water that flows through these ancient paths. And it's not just about the wildlife. Tourism built around these natural treasures pumps billions, with a B, into Florida's economy every year. People come from across the world to kayak in our rivers. They photograph our birds during migration, because if you stand out there in the Everglades on one of these boardwalks, you will see more varieties of birds in 4 days than you'll ever see in your entire life. And they also go out there and walk amongst the cypress trees. And the hard truth is, we are dangerously close to losing all of that. Right now, okay, this rock mine is being proposed just south of Lake Okeechobee. The project is being pushed by one of the state's most politically powerful sugar conglomerates, a corporation that already exerts outsized control over Florida's land and water. They've been in the influence game so long, it's not even funny. Their influence runs very deep. In fact, reports now suggest that even, once again, this is an excerpt from something else, that we have had pressure from the local sheriff up there to publicly smear Captains for Clearwater, one of the key groups opposing the mine. So you had an elected sheriff smearing Captains for Clearwater on the idea that they're promoting hate speech or something, or going to be violence. Let me tell you, if you see anybody who's ever written a history of Big Sugar in Florida, you will have to wait in a long line to get behind the guy who wants to commit violence against those people. They are not a pleasant crew at all when it comes to business. Okay, so when corporations can weaponize law enforcement, which is what they did to silence dissent, the stakes are pretty high. And the risks to us, because they aren't worried about the risk to their image, because they don't care. The risk to the Floridians is a lowered water table. We will have aquifer contamination. We can have a disrupted flow of water through the Everglades, increased flood risks, and permanent ecosystem damage. Once these ancient water channels are damaged, there is no engineering them back to life. It's not how it works. Everybody's like, well, we'll build something else. That's what got us in trouble in the first place, was the Army Corps of Engineers coming here back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and chopping the shit out of the place. Okay. So now some people are going to try to label this fight as environmentalism versus development. And that is a false choice. In fact, the heart of this fight is a deeply conservative one. As conservatives, real conservatives, not Lindsey Graham, we believe in stewardship, in honoring the land we inherit and preserving it for the future generations, and protecting local communities from corporate overreach. Remember Teddy Roosevelt, President of the United States, a very big environmental conservative. All right. We know that short-term profit should never come at the expense of long-term prosperity. And we understand that when you destroy your water, you destroy your state. Go to any place in Africa and talk to them about water. Okay? There's nothing conservative about handing Florida's natural legacy over to a handful of corporations in exchange for political donations. And anyone who is taking that money deserves, because it is supposed to be public, to have their name on a list of assholes and traitors to the state of Florida. And there's a better path that we can deal with this. Florida could become a world leader in ecotourism. Okay. We can be drawing in revenue by celebrating, not destroying our wild places. We already have Disney. We already have Universal. We have all that shit. It's fine. We have enough junk, right? How much more junk do we need? We have enough of these bullshit housing developments. How many more strippers and bartenders can possibly come to the state of Florida? Somebody has to pay them. They're not stripping and bartending for nothing, right? Maybe they are. So this will give us expanded Everglades tourism. It will restore springs attracting these global divers. There are some things. We have the deep blue hole, and we got all that kind of stuff. We have birding festivals, which, believe it or not, bird watching is still a big thing. You don't know it is until you see all these people out there in the Everglades during the migration. Okay, we can have heritage tours throughout the Florida ancient waterways. We have the Miccosukee and the Seminole tribe. The Seminole tribe is got to be one of the most powerful entities in Florida for sure, possibly in the United States, as far as if you want to have an ethnically represented organization. The Seminole Indians are not one to play around, and they had just given Governor DeSantis, I think, almost $2 billion with a B, dollars to fix a bunch of stuff here in the Everglades. What a partner could what kind of a partner could you have with that group, right? An excellent partner where they actually get something other than they got a sports book. But other than the sports book, they could actually be following the ancient ways, as they would say, So this is real regenerative revenue. Regenerative meaning it's going to come back year in and year out. We always have, I wouldn't say commercial fishing because we have to deal with the Chinese, but sport fishing, day boating, using the beaches again, instead of having to worry about the green algae and the red tide and the sewer discharges that bring the bull sharks that are the ones that eat everybody. We have the highest fatality, I believe, for shark attacks in the world here in Florida. It's not Australia, it's here. It's these bull sharks or occasionally the hammerhead. All right. That's why you don't go swimming in Hollywood Beach because they'll fucking chew you up. Okay. So this is real regenerative revenue. Tourists come back, tourists come back, tourists come back. If you want to play your game with battery operated this, solar powered that, blah, 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 you can do that in a community that is also going to be self-sustaining. Think Costa Rica, right? Things of that nature can be done here. We have plenty to do. We are going to hopefully be increasing our agricultural side, which also means additional cattle, additional vegetables, things of that nature. We got a lot that we can be doing, but we need to have the water. And it starts with protecting the water. Without the Everglades, without clean aquifers, Florida's economy and our way of life is over. We will not be able to survive. Okay, that is a true statement. Anybody who tells you it's not is a liar. All right. So today, I can call on every conservative in Florida, all 7 of them or 8 of them, every Floridian who cares about the future of the state as well, to stand up and speak out. You can support Captains for Clearwater. You can support any of the Everglades restoration organizations that are actually working to restore the Everglades. There is an issue with some of those NGOs working for the opposition. So don't just put money into something that has a picture of an alligator on it. Do some research. Like I said, I go with Captains for Clearwater because I know they have a proven track record. They also don't mismanage their money as of what I know now. Okay. Because in the end, this isn't just about saving the Everglades. It's about saving Florida itself. Okay. For your children, your children's children, well, all that stuff. But in the meantime, you don't want to grow old in a place where all of a sudden you're paying $50 for a gallon of water because they aren't able to pump water into your house. They're doing what they're doing over in Pompano, where they're using amended water, which is pissy water as far as I'm concerned, non-potable water, gray water, to water their lawns because they do not have enough clean water available to do the right thing. And that's a story for another day. Why aren't you fixing up your water purification plants, right? Why don't we have desal here? There are so many things that could be done here to generate income, but people are so hung up on A, wage slavery, as you know, got to have our slaves. If we don't have them, we don't know what to do with ourselves. Secondly, don't come up with anything new. This isn't, we're not trying to fly to the moon here, people. We're trying to use technology from 1997, just not from 1897, right? It's out there, and things can be done. Like I said, when people weren't sure years ago, when we used to have big German tourism, because we had big German tourism for quite some time until somebody in Miami did a expose on them and explained that they always carry cash and what rental cars they were driving, and the people in Miami started to murder them all and sort of screwed it up. But when the Germans came here, because I was in Lauderdale by the Sea at the time, so I can tell you the town, they used to have a old motel on the street, and it was all Germans. They laid on the beach all day like a bunch of lizards. They ate their meals at the 7-Eleven, and they would sit there and have a couple beers with their friends at night. And that was the extent of the money they spent in our community. But it was enough. And if you're in an area, like I said, that's natural, where we don't have huge amounts of overhead, things of that nature, we can generate enough money because there are people out there today who would like to go to these things. Wouldn't go out and see the alligators. The alligators are 20 minutes from everybody's house around here. Maybe not, maybe a little more. Within an hour, you can be in a airboat and in the Everglades and seeing what's going on. The contrast of the environment from where we are up towards Lake Okeechobee is startling. All right. That's what I said, the river of grass thing. So that's all I have for you now. Like I said, if you're interested in donating or finding out more about them, Captains for Clear, CLEAR, water. And I have to say that because I don't say water the way everybody says it down here. So there you go. All right. That's about all. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you later on.